knowing practical ways how you can integrate, how you can be centered, how you can be grounded. So the topic of today is integral being on the path to divine. So today we will cover a few questions, and some of the questions are: how do we remain grounded and centered? And how about when one is experiencing overwhelm, or one is hypersensitive to the environment? And also we will discuss today when it's too much of emotional processing, or when it is too much of divine bliss. How do we ground into being? How do we ground into the present now and be functional? Yes, be functional, because a lot of you here have families and have a job and have responsibilities, and unless it is your choice to go somewhere in the Himalayan mountains and live like a sadhu, of course that is your choice as well. But unless that's not your choice to do that, you know that you have certain responsibilities that require you to be present, centered, and grounded, no matter if it's too much bliss, or on the other side, too many emotional processes. So wherever you find yourself to be, we always need to direct ourselves back to balance and harmony. So what creates overwhelm? And this is directed to all the people out there and you that experience this continuous overwhelmingness or hypersensitivity. Well, first we have to really acknowledge and look at the several aspects of disbalances that occur. How do we get off balance? What is really going on here? So we have to be aware where our focus and attention is placed. Because out there and also online, one can experience a lot of overwhelm, because if your attention is scattered everywhere, that is going to create a disbalance. And you may not be fully aware of this. Maybe you still keep jumping here and there. You still keep trying this meditation, and let's try that meditation, and let's just watch many videos on YouTube about this and that and this and that. And one is not really aware that when we are jumping into so many different things, this is also creating a great disbalance, because certain meditation practices or certain lineages may not absolutely align with others. Of course, all practices have their time for them, have their right time for you to do a certain practice. And also you need to know why you're doing this practice. So most of the time, there is unawareness there. We just want to kind of grab upon the next thing to experience or try to search for an experience that maybe within you have longing or desire to experience, and yet one may not be fully aware what is really happening within. So this is something that is seen a lot, and this is something that everyone should bring a certain inner awareness to know that if you are, let's say, practicing a lot of different meditations from here and there, and they may not align together, this is why you're feeling overwhelmed and disbalanced. Otherwise, if there is enough awareness within you and you're very much in tune and you know that certain practices and certain meditations are supporting in a specific way, while other meditations are supporting you in another specific way. For example, working upon self-inquiry to open your level of consciousness to the next deeper or higher degree. One cannot jump from opening to presence consciousness into trying to force some practice to open the divine nature. It's impossible. And if one tries to do that, one is creating a great disbalance because it is not really aligned for you to jump to that degree. So this is why we have this map of levels of consciousness, and as we take this step by step, a very integral approach to open up, meaning merge your focus and attention one step further, one step at a time. One cannot jump that because that will create a disbalance. So I know many times people can be very excited and have a lot of energy to move forward and progress, but many times we also need to remind you to slow down. That too is really important, to slow down. Sometimes having a break is also important, is also very beneficial, because too much of something may also create destruction. So we are always looking at the most harmonious way of living. Not how fast you progress to full consciousness, not how fast you liberate your soul, but to take the integral approach step by step to remain grounded, and if necessary, to slow down even more. Because when we look at the whole overview of your life experience in the now, we are looking that you have a harmonious one. That is key, most important. So to have a harmonious present now along this unfoldment of your path, this is a requirement. Now also, we also need to look at the various experiences that come and go with meditation, because this also may create disbalances and overwhelm when a person is identifying too much with spiritual experiences. Okay, because, for example, you join us here and we maybe having a satsang about divine, or we may have a satsang about another topic, and you may touch upon and experience this or that. But if you're identifying with a certain experience, the experience is already gone, because experiences come and go. Then one is struggling, trying to grasp upon some amazing experience that one has had in the great void, for example. And or else in the next moment of next spiritual experience of having this divine bliss. And since these are just experiences, they are not permanent, because all experiences, they come and they go. It's a momentary taste of what may be for you in the next few months or years, so to speak. Because when we are focusing on opening consciousness, what is truly happening is that our focus and attention is redirected to that which is beyond of what is familiar with you now. So the focus and attention is merging further beyond of what you're normalized with, or what has become normal to you. And step by step, as our focus and attention merges to the beyond, goes further, deeper, or further beyond of what it knows now, this allows the consciousness to open up. So, for example, if somebody is in unity consciousness, one is merged with the ocean of energy, with the ocean of connectivity. And thus, the next step for that being is to unplug the focus and attention from the ocean of energy or the ocean of activity, and redirect it to that which is beyond the ocean of energy, which that is presence consciousness. It is the empty space of being. And it takes some adjustments, some great practice, some great remembrance to keep redirecting your attention and make the presence consciousness your new home. So when that process is taking place, that is not an experience that comes and goes. That is a permanent opening of consciousness. That is always accessible at the background of your being, no matter what is happening in front. Right? So I'm sharing this to understand that experiences that come and go is not the actual opening and the actual merging of your focus and attention to that which is beyond, to your next level of consciousness. And so when this is absolutely clear, then we may realize that we don't need to identify with all these experiences. Because experiences are like thoughts. They come and they go. They give you a taste of something that may be in the future, in the next months or years to come. That may be the opening of that consciousness that will be permanently open and accessible. Because opening consciousness is very different than simply experiencing something that comes and goes. So this too will support a more integral approach, a more grounded approach, because now you're not jumping your attention everywhere. especially when these are all secondary things. It's not the priority. And the priority is always to redirect your focus and attention to where you are and further deepening or transitioning to the next level of consciousness. And without pushing, without running, step by step, a very grounded and centered approach that will not create any unnecessary disbalances and disharmonies. Something else to talk about is about overdoing. So, overdoing healing. Yes, when someone nearly becomes too much addicted to healing. And we see this happen a lot. And maybe one may not know any better, fine, but when one knows that there is a time for a certain healing to be done, and there is a time to stop, there is a time to rest from processing and healing wounds and deepening into wounds, because when it's overly done, this is creating much more disturbances than actual healing. Okay, so on this regards, I would say that certain people may have a certain pushing force to move forward, maybe quicker, or try to fix things quicker, but when we look at the overall view, that person is struggling and is not able to manage oneself properly. So overdoing of practices, this is, this must be addressed, and everyone must have a certain inner awareness to realize when one needs to stop. And one other thing that also creates certain disbalances, which puts you off your center and off your grounds, is known to be a luxury challenge, this one, but it is the energy of excitement. Yes, too much excitement is generally shifting people out of their present now, out of the grounds, out of their centeredness. So, of course, there are certain personality types that tend to have more bubbly personality, more natural joy, more natural excitement about everything. But that too needs to be addressed, acknowledged, and seen, because too much excitement is also putting one off their balance. So it's not just negative energies or from the negative perspective, but also from a positive perspective too can create that. So to give you another example, when someone awakens to energy, so when someone awakens to the energy flow, to their chakras, this may cause many disturbances at first, because these energy flows and chakra awakenings and kundalini awakenings may be, for that person who has just had the awakening to their energy body, may not have enough presence in them, of course, because presence comes later. But when one does not have that space for energy, this is where it is created a lot of disbalances, hypersensitivity, and overwhelm experiences. So if you or anyone that you know is going through this kind of experience where majority of spiritual people are literally struggling at this level, because majority of spiritual people are awakening to their inner light, to their higher self, to the first spiritual heart awakening, the inner love, and the unity consciousness. This is where we see the majority of the spiritual people awakening to. And every one of them suffers because their focus is too much on energy. They don't know any better. They don't know what is beyond energy, and thus do not have the capacity to hold or contain in one's own space, because that space simply has not yet been created. So here we come to see one of the most major states of consciousness that support integration along the way to divine consciousness. This is the number one state of consciousness which is so necessary for everyone to awaken to, the presence consciousness, to awaken to the empty space of being. And the reason is because when one opens up to presence, to the emptiness, to the empty space of being, then one realizes that energy is already swimming within the empty space. Thus, that being now has a shift of perception, and they shift from the ocean of energy and constant movement into the stillness, into the emptiness of the being. And this is so important for many, because when you shift and become the emptiness, the empty space of being, which is presence consciousness, what starts to happen here is that all the energies that are flowing from the chakras, that are flowing in the spine, that create a whole whirlpool of everything and activity, starts now to return back behind the chakras, and they return back into the emptiness. So as energy returns back, it is completing the cycle, and the energy is returning to stillness, to peace, to silence. So even if someone is open to higher levels of consciousness, but yet find themselves being too active, being too agitated, then one must remember to return all of the activities back into silence, back into emptiness. And as a result, one would integrate those energies into the emptiness and feel more grounded, And I know that most of you know this. And yet still it's difficult to maintain your grounds, to maintain your centeredness, and to further have the strength to stay at your centering place. So this goes out for many people to know that, of course, empty space of being is not so easily achieved or attained by one's own will, so to speak. It is not as easy for someone to disengage from the ocean of energy and be uplifted or pulled beyond that force, the magnetic force of energy. But this is where we see that for this shift to happen, majority of times one needs a teacher, a guide to guide them into this state of consciousness where one begins to experience true centeredness and grounding. Because many people think that grounding needs to work with your root chakra, but this is so limited. This is energetic, but presence consciousness is beyond energy. It's your whole entire being that is grounded in the now. And once you shift there, you anchor here and now, you become the space for all energy to flow. But your attention is remaining in that still emptiness.